Crazy drone fights, tragic disfigurements, and a chart-topping pop song. Mike Rowe may be famous for doing some of the dirtiest jobs imaginable, but there's still a lot you don't know about him. After he obtained his bachelor's degree in communications in 1985, Mike Rowe tried to enter the workforce. He wanted to be a voiceover artist, but residing in Baltimore, Maryland at the time, he couldn't find employment in his field. Part of the problem was that he wasn't certified to work on productions in Baltimore because he wasn't a member of either of the two major performer labor collectives, SAG and AFTRA. Then, Rowe discovered a workaround. A SAG or AFTRA card could be purchased if he were to already be a member in good standing of another entertainment union, the American Guild of Musical Artists. That includes opera singers, so Rowe auditioned for the Baltimore Opera. In an interview with The Glenn Beck Show, Rowe said he taught himself the Cote aria from Puccini's La Bohème by repeatedly listening to it and singing it back to himself.
I didn't know what the words meant. I just memorized the sounds and the melody.
Unbeknownst to him, he had a decent baritone voice and got the job. While still living in Baltimore and looking to break into television, Rowe visited a friend tending bar at a local tavern. While there, Rowe tuned the tavern's TV to QVC. The home shopping channel had studios a couple of hours away in Pennsylvania, and Rowe bet his bartender friend $100 that he'd ace his audition and advance to the next round of selections. Instead, QVC hired Rowe immediately, and he was given a middle-of-the-night shift. Rowe told NPR's All Things Considered, "I looked at the overnights as an opportunity to essentially do the late-night talk show I always wanted to do without permission." That meant mocking all the products he was tasked with promoting to viewers, including porcelain dolls, a cat toy, and cheap jewelry. For his behavior, Rowe was fired. Then, QVC reached out and rehired the TV personality, who once more ran afoul of management. All told, QVC terminated Rowe 3 times. After he was hired back once more, he quit of his own volition. Rowe is synonymous with dirty jobs, the Discovery Channel series that featured its host participating in unseemly but important sources of employment. The show has been on and off television for over 2 decades, and it's based on a local TV feature starring Rowe. After reading George Plimpton's Paper Lion, in which the author wrote about football by participating in an NFL training camp, Rowe got the idea to similarly film himself doing things he had no business doing. With the help of James Reed, the producer of Evening Magazine, the San Francisco TV show he'd recently started hosting, Rowe decided on profiling tough and disgusting jobs. In 2002, the first Somebody's Gotta Do It piece aired on Evening Magazine, with Rowe shadowing a man who removes animal waste from the San Francisco Zoo. Thinking the concept could fuel a full-length national TV series, Rowe sent clips to multiple networks. Only the Discovery Channel showed interest, but told Rowe to run the idea through a production company first. With Pilgrim Films on board, Rowe sold Dirty Jobs to the Discovery Channel, which first aired it as a series of specials in 2003 before becoming a proper show in 2005. Dirty Jobs was once canceled in 2012, only for CNN to revive the show under its original name, Somebody's Gotta Do It. When that show went out of production, the Discovery Channel rebooted Dirty Jobs in 2020. The entire point of Dirty Jobs is to engender appreciation and respect for obscure and grueling labor sectors. Mike Rowe learned firsthand about one of the most dangerous gigs on Dirty Jobs when some poor choices in handling tricky equipment left him with a gruesome injury. Rowe endured numerous painful accidents through the initial run of Dirty Jobs. He told Entertainment Weekly, "I have been really fortunate in the sense that nothing major has gone wrong. I've gotten stitched up 3 or 4 times. I've broken a rib. I've broken a toe. I've lost 3 fingernails."
You never know what you're going to get on the show, except for an honest look at work.
In the first season episode focusing on a blacksmith, he sustained something a bit more serious. Rowe set up a shot where he'd turn on a portable blast furnace with the initial flames seen reflected in his eyes. Rowe turned on the machine and the fire behaved as planned, but in a bigger way than expected. He told Entertainment Weekly, "The gas accumulates, so the flames shot out, wrapped around my head and burned my eyebrows off." That burst of heat instantly melted Rowe's contact lenses, gluing them to his eyeballs. He wasn't on those sea-tossed fishing vessels trolling for crabs off the coast of Alaska, but Mike Rowe did narrate many of the most harrowing moments on Deadliest Catch. At first, producers and Rowe decided that the TV personality should be an onboard host for Deadliest Catch, reporting on the action and telling the audience what was happening as it unfolded. Rowe filmed some material in this manner before the Discovery Channel also ordered Dirty Jobs. The network gave Rowe a choice. He could appear as an on-camera host on one of the two similar series and then narrate the other. Rowe opted to continue hosting Dirty Jobs, and then he became the narrator for Deadliest Catch. In September 2016, Rowe was asleep in his San Francisco area home when he was awakened by what he initially thought was a bee buzzing in his ear. As he grew more alert, he noticed the true source of the noise was coming from outside his window. When he withdrew the drapes, Rowe came face to face with a camera-enabled drone. Rowe recalled in a Facebook post, "I moved onto my second instinct, an irresistible urge to blow the contraption out of the sky. After retrieving a shotgun, he moved to a deck to situate himself below the drone. Realizing he was about to fire into a camera recording him while he was also completely nude, Rowe assessed the situation. He wrote, "It occurred to me that nothing good can come from an angry B-list celebrity standing on his deck with no clothes and a loaded shotgun." He cocked the gun, the drone tilted the camera to get a better shot, and Rowe stood down, Rowe said in his Facebook post. But really, what stopped me was the realization that somewhere nearby, a drone operator was staring at his monitor, pondering the image of a very naked guy with a very familiar face, pointing a shotgun into the lens of his GoPro. As a labor advocate and well-known narrator, Rowe was a solid choice to voice a 2014 Walmart commercial touting the retailer's commitment to stocking domestically produced items. Underscoring footage of U.S. factories and laborers, Rowe describes Walmart's plan to buy $250 billion in U.S.-made goods over a 10-year period. The outrage for Rowe over the spot arrived quickly and furiously. The reputation of Walmart, accused of large-scale underpayment and exploitation of its massive workforce at the time, didn't mesh with Rowe's consistent and outspoken support of working people, according to critics. He lost his commercial voiceover deal with Ford Motor Company, and he claimed to have received more than 5,000 letters of complaint from members of the labor organization Jobs with Justice. Rowe was also the recipient of numerous death threats. None of those promises of violence ever came to fruition, but Rowe did curiously join the club of celebrities declared dead when they weren't. In 2016, some media outlets reported that there was gunfire at Rowe's home and that the reality star had died from shots sustained in the melee. However, there was no truth to the story. Rowe explained on Facebook, "I always hoped that sooner or later I'd come home after a long day, open a beer, glance at the headlines, and have the opportunity to quote Mark Twain. The reports of my death have been grossly exaggerated." In 2017, then 11-year-old Charlotte McCourt was affiliated with a Girl Scout troop in New Jersey and embraced some curious tactics to beat her personal record of 300 boxes of Girl Scout cookies sold. She snuck onto a computer owned by her father and wrote a letter to a wealthy family friend after being told he planned to buy a huge amount of cookies so that he could send them to American troops overseas. However, Charlotte also provided the wealthy benefactor with blunt reviews of the cookies. For instance, she critiqued the shortbread trefoil as kind of boring. Rowe got his hands on the letter because Charlotte's father, Sean McCourt, was a producer on his podcast, The Way I Heard It. Rowe found Charlotte's letter so funny and her cause so noble that he made a Facebook video about the sales drive.
"Buy a box of cookies, would you?"
10 million people saw the clip, and the amplification helped McCourt sell a lot of cookies for those soldiers to enjoy. Thanks to Rowe's assistance, she sold over 26,000 boxes, far exceeding the Scouts' initial goal of surpassing 300. In 2021, Rowe brought Dirty Jobs back to television, inspired by the people who provided essential and emergency services during the COVID-19 pandemic. To promote the new Dirty Jobs, he collaborated with John Rich, one half of the popular country music duo Big and Rich, on a Christmas pop song. Within days of the release of Santa's Got a Dirty Job in 2021, the song instantly went to #1 on Billboard's digital song sales chart, beating hits by Dua Lipa and Mariah Carey. Characterized as a country song because of Rich's involvement, Santa's Got a Dirty Job also headlined the country digital song sales chart and debuted at number 35 on Billboard's main country music list. When Rowe became an Eagle Scout in 1977, he received a congratulatory signed note from President Gerald Ford.
Indeed I was. Eagle Scout. Distinguished Eagle Scout.
Upon closer examination, however, Rowe realized that his note was exactly like all the others. Instead, it was a mere form letter. After Dirty Jobs made him famous, Rowe started his own Eagle Scout letter campaign. Newly minted Eagle Scouts or their relatives can request Rowe to send a letter. The note outlines Rowe's history and frustration with the Eagle Scout form letter program while also serving as a form letter itself. It cheekily claims to be personalized and special because the recipient fills in the blanks where all the personal information is supposed to go. Rowe also parlays some wisdom to Eagle Scouts about how they should take their rank in stride and be proud of it, without an important person giving them permission. He writes in the letter, "The Eagle Award comes with no magic power of influence. It's simply a recognition of what you've accomplished so far. Don't wait for the world to acknowledge your accomplishments." In 2008, Rowe enjoyed one of the perks of being a celebrity. He was invited for a guest spot on Sesame Street to gently send up his dirty jobs premise. Framed as a segment of Dirtiest Jobs, Rowe hits Sesame Street to find that neighborhood's most revolting career. He also comes across Oscar the Grouch, who claims that his garbage hoarding job qualifies. Rowe accepts the challenge to look around in Oscar's trash can, but there's something of an impasse when the small Muppet invites Rowe to crawl into the receptacle. Oscar suggests,
"So just come around to the back door."
Rowe then quips under his breath that he always wanted to go in the back door before he disappears off-screen into the abyss of trash. Carol Spinney's line as Oscar was scripted. Rowe's response wasn't. That off-color comment was improvised in keeping with Rowe's dirty jobs routine. Rowe wrote on his blog, "I can be a smartass from time to time, and prefer to end most on-camera conversations with something inappropriate that the editor can delete later on." Nobody deleted the wisecrack from the episode, however.